The footprint near the workshop is detected to match for Anton Geisler's footprint, and the fingerprint on the workshop door matches for Alexander Smith. The footprint near eastern window matches for Anton Geisler, and the hair strands near the eastern window also match for Anton Geisler and Alexander Smith. The blood drop and DNA on the axe matches for Anton Geisler and Henry Bauer. The fingerprint on the eastern window matches for Anton Geisler. The footprints near the front porch matches for Francis Curran and Henry Bauer. The blood drops on the front porch match for the blood type of Anton Geisler. And the hair strands match for Francis Curran and Henry Bauer. The blood pool A matches for Alexander Smith, and blood pool B matches for Rebecca Smith. The blood droplets near throughout the front room matches for Alexander and Rebecca Smith. The front room tea table matches for Rebecca Smith, and the fingerprint on the teacup matches for Mary Annabelle. The blood pattern on the front room wall matches for Alexander Smith, and the hair strand near their bodies match for Mary Annabelle. The blood droplet on the money chest matches for Anton Geisler. The hair strand on the money chest matches for Alexander Smith and the dog, and the fingerprint on the money chest matches for Alexander Smith. And the blood drops and DNA on the eastern floor match for Anton Geisler. Blood droplets and DNA on hammer matches for Rebecca Smith, and the fingerprints on hammer matches for Anton Geisler. I believe that Anton Geisler is guilty of the murders of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Why, you ask? Because the motive of Anton's actions are the way he was treated by Mr. Smith and other folks. People were racist to him for being an outsider, and also made fun of him for not being able to speak English. Anton also wanted to get money from Mr. Smith, and he knew he had a stash hidden somewhere in his money chest. Therefore, having him think to himself, why not steal from someone who makes fun of him every single day? The means for Anton's crime was the hammer and axe that were used to murder the couple. The opportunity for Anton's actions are being alone in the house with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, an old couple, most likely weren't going to win a fight against someone that young of an age. Also, Anton knows there are other people to be to be blamed for, though he doesn't realize that being an outsider German would affect him being a main target, especially with all the illicit evidence they found on him. Do I believe the correct person was convicted of this crime? Yes. I believe that Anton Geisler was correctly convicted of this crime. I truly believe he was the one to murder the couple, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. This is because all of the listed evidence on his name, almost every evidence when it comes to DNA, blood, footprints, it all leads to Anton. Most of his listed evidence is near the eastern window where police say the murderer came through. On top of all the evidence, Anton has a cut on his knee, most likely from trying to get through the broken window. I, Jacob Mahaslu, I have a master's degree in criminology from Harvard University. I've been working with the LAPD, also known as the Los Angeles Police Department, for nearly a decade now. I've been through the worst and toughest cases, mastering the works of gathering evidence and identifying. I've been through countless cases that are similar to this. I've solved every single one of them, and I plan to solve this one. I work closely with the medical examiner in the building. He provides the autopsies of the cases I work on for me. The evidence found at the Smith house was perfect for reenactment. The blood pools splashed on the walls, of footprints in and out of the house, the broken window, DNA samples all over the house, and weapons that were covered in Mr. and Mrs. Smith's blood. It's all there and ready to be examined in the lab to be checked who these prints, DNA, and blood samples belong to. Once I figure out who may be involved in this and gather a line of witnesses, it will be fine from there. After examining the evidence, it seems as if Anton Geisler is our main suspect. Anton and Henry share the same blood type, having them matching almost everything that Anton's blood or possibly Henry's blood could be on. Yet Anton has a number of pieces of evidence with his actual DNA on other things as well. Therefore, Anton is our main suspect. It is 1842, December, 10 p.m. Interviewing Anton Geisler. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you can say and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. So, Anton, why was there a cut on your leg?
I told the officer the same thing I'm about to tell you. It was from working at the farm.
Explain to me why we found your hair strand on the eastern window.
I have no idea. It must have flew there when I was having tea with the Smiths.
Explain to me why we found your fingerprint on the hammer.
I use it all the time to work on the farm.
Explain to me why we found your fingerprints on the east room window.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I never go near that window.
Explain to me why we found your blood sample at the east room window.
Must be from walking around with that cut of mines from the farm.
Explain to me why we found blood droplets that matched you on the east room floor.
Same thing. Must be from that cut of mines from the farm.
Explain to me why we found your blood droplets on the axe that was used to murder the Smiths.
No idea. Never used that axe.
Explain to me why we found your blood droplets on the front porch.
Must be from my cut on my leg. But I'm telling you, it's from working on the farm.
Explain to me why your matched blood drops were on the money chest.
What money chest? I don't know anything about the money chest.
Your DNA was found at the eastern window. How or why was it there?
Must be a mix-up, because I never go to that room.
Your shoe prints were found right outside of the basement entryway. The eastern window was right above the basement entryway. Tell me, how do all these lead up to you?
I walk around the house for work all the time. You'd probably find my shoe print everywhere if you actually looked.
Okay, your only excuse for the questions were from your leg bleeding, or you just don't know what I'm talking about, correct?
Indeed, sir.
Now that we have confirmed that, why don't you tell me why you got that cut on the farm?
You know, we work on the farm all day. Must be from wood chips or sorts. I don't know.
It just interests me on how it cut through your jeans and managed to still get a good cut off of you. Why are you getting tense, Anton? Why are you getting angry? Is it because you know you're lying?
Get me out of here. Where's my lawyer? I don't need this nonsense right now.
Okay.
It is 1843, December 8 p.m. Interviewing Henry Bauer. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in a court of law. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. How long have you known the Smiths for?
I've known Smith for a little over 2 years now.
How long have you been working for the Smiths?
I'm working as a farmhand for 2 years.
How often would you have access to their house?
For the most part, I had access to the house when I needed it.
How often do you see the Smiths?
I see the Smiths constantly.
Is brown your natural hair color?
Yes, brown is my natural hair color.
Do you by chance know where the Smiths' money chest is?
Yes, I do know where the Smiths' money chest is located.
If someone from this town were asked to describe you, what would they say?
They would likely say that I have been as a farmhand for the Smiths for 2 years. A German immigrant, spoke both English and German, and that I have brown hair.
Where did you live, Mr. Bauer?
I live elsewhere.
How did Mr. Smith usually sit after he had tea?
He sat in front of the fire with his feet on the fire crane that hung over the fire.
Where would the Smiths often keep their dog?
Mr. Smith would usually keep his dog with him overnight in his bedroom.
It is 1842, December, 9 p.m. Interviewing Mary Annabelle. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. So, Mary, what do you do for a living?
I work for the Smiths as a helper.
What is your relationship to Mr. Smith?
Mr. Smith was my aunt.
What is your relationship to Mr. Smith?
Mr. Smith was my aunt's husband, my boss.
What do you do to help the Smith family?
I usually clean and cook for them.
How long have you been working with the Smiths?
I've been working with the Smiths for a year.
Where were you on the weekend before the incident?
I was over at my mother's house for the weekend.
What was your relationship with Anton Geisler?
He was nice. He was the only one I was friends with.
What was your relationship with Francis Curran?
I had no particular relationship with him. He was just a coworker.
What was your relationship with Henry Bauer?
Same with Francis. I had no further relationship other than a coworker.
Did you see or feel any suspicion between the three other workers?
I didn't see or hear anything. But personally, I do have my suspicions over Henry and Anton. Both were having tea with the Smiths, and both had been reported or having multiple evidence on them.
It is 1843, December, 7 p.m. Interviewing Henry Bauer. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. Mr. Smith, why were there cuts on your hands?
I had some tough farm chores.
Did you know that Mr. and Mrs. Smith were both murdered with blunt force objects? And how accessible are such objects to you?
No, I did not know, but they are pretty accessible to me since I am a farmhand.
Did you know that your fingerprints matched the set of prints found on the crime scene?
No, I did not, but it is a strange coincidence that the hammer used to murder the Smiths had my fingerprints on it.
If you had a motive or a reason to kill the Smiths, or knew why someone else would, what would that reason be?
The reason would be because of how wealthy the Smiths are and compared to the money that I am being paid.
Did you know that your hair was found inside of the Smith's house in 2 different places?
Yes, I did. I heard the first place my hair was found was on the front porch of the house.
Do you know where the second strands of your hair were found?
Yes, I heard the officer said that it was also found in the money chest.
What did you do on the evening of the murders?
I had tea with the Smiths in the front room, which is a bit unusual.
Do you know what day the Smiths' bodies were found?
I believe that they were found on November 14th, 1842.
Do you find it weird that the 2 weapons found at the crime scene are a hammer and an axe?
Yes, that is peculiar that the 2 weapons that are found can be found in my workspace.
Mr. Bauer, what kind of blood type do you have?
My blood type is A positive.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer.
I, Jacob Maaslu. I have a master's degree in criminology from Harvard University. I've been working with the LAPD, also known as the Los Angeles Police Department, for nearly a decade now. I've been through the worst and toughest cases, mastering the worst of gathering evidence and identifying. I've been through countless cases that are similar to this. I've solved every single one of them, and I plan to solve this one. I work closely with the medical examiner in the building. He provides the autopsies of cases that I work on for me. The evidence found at the Smith house was perfect for a reenactment. The blood pools splashed on the walls, the footprints in and out of the house, the broken window, the DNA samples all over the house, and weapons that were covered in Mr. and Mrs. Smith's blood. It's all there and ready to be examined in the lab to check who these prints, DNA, and blood samples belong to. Once I figure out who may be involved in this and gather a line of witnesses, it will be fine from there. After examining the evidence, it seems as if Anton Geisler is our main suspect. Anton and Henry share the same blood type of having an A+, having them matching almost everything that involves blood. Though Henry and Anton have different DNAs, which makes it be easy to separate which is which. The blood drop on eastern window matches the blood type of Anton Geisler. As you can see here, the control and evidence of that. And then the blood droplets on the eastern floor match the blood type of Anton Geisler as well. Same here, control and evidence. And the blood droplets on axe match for Anton Geisler as well. As you can see here, control and evidence. The blood drop on the front porch matches for Anton Geisler as well. Control and evidence. The blood droplets on the money chest match for Anton Geisler as well. Notice how Anton has more than one match for drops of blood throughout the house. Anton has been reported to have a cut on his knee, which he said he got from farm work, but it doesn't seem like it. Anton most likely got his cut from going through the broken eastern window. Having that cut knee, an open wound, will cause leakage. The blood pattern on the wall matched for Mr. and Mrs. Smith as they both were attacked. The weapon slashing them must have swung, causing the blood to ricochet from the weapon to the wall. As you can see here, this is the control and evidence. And then the blood droplets on the hammer match for Mrs. Smith as well. As you can see here, control and evidence. This doesn't mean she was the one to use the hammer though. It rather means it was used against her. And then the blood pool A and B match for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Blood pool A. And then blood pool B. Control and evidence. As they bled out the floor, causing the blood pools.